The mist clings to the muddy airstrip like a funeral shroud. Somewhere in the dense forests of northern Burma, where the jungle breathes with malaria and monsoon, a crude collection of bamboo stakes and camouflage netting surrounds what the British War Office dismissively catalogued as Forward Airstrip K7. The air smells of rotting vegetation and aviation fuel. In the pre-dawn darkness, a solitary figure walks the perimeter, dragging lengths of steel cable across the rutted earth. His name is Squadron Leader Archibald Thornton Webb, and within hours, his superiors will call him either a madman or a genius. The Pacific and Asian theaters of World War II had become laboratories of desperation by 1944. With Japanese forces still controlling vast territories from Burma to the Solomon Islands, Allied air power represented the thin line between resistance and collapse. Yet airfields, those vital arteries of modern warfare, had become death traps of a different kind. Japanese Zero fighters, agile and merciless, had developed a brutal specialty: low-altitude strafing runs against parked aircraft. At dawn or dusk, they would scream out of the sun, machine guns blazing, turning rows of grounded planes into burning wreckage before vanishing back into the clouds. Allied losses mounted. Conventional anti-aircraft batteries proved too slow, too cumbersome. The mathematics were simple and savage. One attacking fighter could destroy 5 or 6 parked aircraft in a single pass. Air superiority meant nothing if your planes never left the ground. Squadron Leader Thornton Webb had served in North Africa before his transfer to Burma. He had watched Messerschmitts strafe British positions at Tobruk. He had seen the aftermath, twisted aluminum and charred bodies, and he had learned that modern war sometimes demanded ancient solutions. His superiors called his proposal medieval nonsense. A wing commander in Calcutta literally laughed when reviewing the requisition forms. Steel cables, bamboo framework, counterweights, and pulleys salvaged from destroyed vehicles. "This is 1944, not the Battle of Agincourt," the commander had written in the margin of the rejected request. But Thornton Webb understood something his desk-bound superiors did not. Physics doesn't care about the century. The Japanese pilots of the 64th Sentai had grown confident, even arrogant, in their morning rituals of destruction. They called these missions Kari, the hunt. Intelligence reports documented their tactics with clinical precision. Approach at wave-top height to avoid radar, climb briefly to 300 feet, then dive at the target airfield, guns firing, before pulling up and away. 17 Allied airfields had been hit this way in 3 months. The pilots joked among themselves that the British planes sat on their strips like sleeping pigs. One captured diary entry, later translated by Allied intelligence, read, "The enemy makes it too easy. They park their machines in neat rows as if arranging a parade ground. We are merely the executioners of their stupidity." On March the 17th, 1944, 6 Nakajima Ki-43 fighters lifted from their base at Meiktila at 5:20 hours. The target, the newly established forward airstrip K7, which reconnaissance had identified as housing a squadron of Hurricane fighters and several transport aircraft. The flight leader, Captain Takeo Yamada, had personally destroyed 11 Allied aircraft on the ground. This would be, he expected, a routine addition to his tally. The formation flew low over the Irrawaddy River, navigation aided by the silver ribbon of water cutting through the jungle darkness. As dawn broke behind them, painting the sky the color of blood and gold, they spotted the airfield ahead. Smoke from morning cook fires rose vertically in the still air, perfect conditions. What happened in the next 43 seconds would be analyzed in military academies for decades to come. Thornton Webb's trap was elegantly simple, which made it devastatingly effective. Working for 3 nights with a hand-picked crew of engineers and local laborers, he had strung steel cables, salvaged from a destroyed bridge, across the airfield's approach corridor at precisely calculated heights, 250 feet, 300 feet, and 350 feet. The cables were nearly invisible against the jungle canopy, suspended on bamboo frameworks designed to collapse harmlessly if hit by friendly aircraft at higher altitudes. But for fighters screaming in at strafing height, committed to their attack run, unable to climb sharply without losing speed and control, the cables became a lethal web. Thornton Webb had added one final refinement: chunks of concrete and metal suspended from the cables at intervals, creating a curtain of obstacles that would shred wings and control surfaces. Captain Yamada's formation dove toward the airfield in textbook fashion, their formation tight and professional. The lead aircraft was traveling at approximately 320 miles per hour when it struck the first cable. The steel wire, tensioned to nearly breaking point, didn't snap. Instead, it acted like a cheese cutter through butter, slicing through the Ki-43's wing root with such speed that the pilot likely never understood what had killed him. The fighter cartwheeled instantly, exploding on impact with the ground in a spray of aviation fuel and ammunition. The second aircraft, flying slightly higher, hit the suspended concrete weights. The impact tore away its propeller and smashed through the engine cowling. It bellowed black smoke and plunged vertically into the tree line. The remaining 4 pilots had perhaps 2 seconds to react. Training and instinct dictated they climb, break formation, abort the attack. But momentum and physics are merciless companions. 2 more fighters struck cables as they pulled up desperately, their wings folding like paper, their fuselages tumbling through the morning air trailing debris. A 5th aircraft managed to clear the main cable array, but struck the uppermost wire with its tail assembly. The rudder and elevator tore away completely. The fighter entered an uncontrollable spin, corkscrewing into the jungle 3 miles from the airfield. Only 1 pilot escaped, Lieutenant Hiroshi Nakamura, flying the far left position, who pulled hard left the instant he saw the lead fighter disintegrate. His wings screamed with stress, his vision tunneled from the G-forces. But he lived. He returned to base alone, his aircraft's fabric torn and fluttering, his hands shaking so badly he could barely write the mission report. The report itself, captured after the war and now housed in the British Imperial War Museum, remains a testament to shock and disbelief. Nakamura wrote, "Unknown defensive system, not flak, not fighters. Like flying into an invisible wall. 5 aircraft lost before weapons fired. Request immediate intelligence assessment before any further low-altitude operations." The Japanese never attacked forward airstrip K7 again. Within weeks, Allied intelligence noted a marked change in Japanese strafing tactics throughout Burma. Higher approach altitudes, greater caution, reduced effectiveness. One trap at one airfield had fundamentally altered enemy doctrine. The steel cable became Thornton Webb's signature, his trademark symbol. As news of the successful defense spread through the beleaguered Allied air units in Burma and China, requests poured in. Could the system be replicated? How much cable was needed? What were the engineering specifications? By June 1944, 17 Allied airfields in the theater had implemented variations of Thornton Webb's design. Not all were successful. The system required specific terrain, approach vectors, and meticulous calculation, but enough worked to shift the tactical equation. The Japanese, masters of the surprise attack, found themselves surprised. Their advantage in ground attack operations, purchased with blood and skill over 3 years of war, eroded not through superior technology, but through creative desperation. The irony was not lost on Thornton Webb himself. In a letter to his wife in England, written in July 1944 and preserved in his personal papers, he reflected, "They mocked me for thinking like a medieval siege engineer. But what is war if not a siege? We defend what we have with whatever comes to hand. If the enemy expects sophistication, give them simplicity. If they expect radar and radio-directed guns, give them steel and gravity. A cable doesn't need electricity. It doesn't break down. It doesn't require training to operate. It simply exists, patient and invisible, waiting for arrogance to meet physics." The psychological impact extended beyond tactical adjustments. Japanese pilot memoirs and post-war interviews reveal a profound shift in confidence. The assumption of technical and tactical superiority, carefully cultivated through early war victories, had begun to crack. If the enemy could turn bamboo and scrap metal into effective air defense, what else might they devise? The comfortable certainty of hunting sleeping pigs gave way to anxious calculation. Every approach became suspect. Every airfield might hide invisible threats. The hunters had discovered that the pigs had teeth. Thornton Webb survived the war. He never claimed to be a genius, never sought glory for his improvisation. When decorated with the Distinguished Service Order in 1945, he reportedly said only, "I was scared, and scared men think clearly." He returned to civilian life, worked as a structural engineer in Manchester, and rarely spoke of Burma. The cables and bamboo frameworks rotted away in the jungle decades ago, reclaimed by the forest that had hidden them. But the principle remained, encoded in military doctrine, studied in staff colleges. Innovation isn't always forward. Sometimes it's sideways, backward. Ancient wisdom applied to modern problems. In the end, 6 Japanese fighters fell not to radar-guided missiles or jet interceptors, but to steel cable and counterweights. Technology Archimedes would have understood. They fell because one frightened creative officer refused to accept that modernity had all the answers. The medieval trap succeeded precisely because it was medieval, because it existed outside the enemy's conceptual framework, because arrogance never looks down until it's too late. The morning mist still clings to those Burmese jungles. The airstrip is long gone, swallowed by vegetation and time. But somewhere in that green silence, the ghost of steel cable still hums in the wind. A reminder that the oldest trap is the one you never see coming, and the deadliest weapon is often the one your enemy has already dismissed as impossible.